The Red Pill Day on 9/11. First and foremost, Red Pill Day, we had Comic Relief contact us, not too happy with the use of the logo that we had. They felt that people might get confused with Red Nose Day. I will probably read out the response that I sent to their solicitor, maybe on the day. But let's just say that I made some comparisons. I said, well, Red Pill Day, what about Red Letter Day, Red Tomato Day, Red Dragon Day, Red Planet Day? Are you going to say that all of these things are going to be confusing? And if they are, well, then when we're talking about comic relief, what about hand relief? Will hand relief be confusing for comic relief? They came back with a nice letter, but nevertheless, we are going full steam ahead. And on the day, we should actually have the following parties taking part. We've got Gareth and David Icke. We've got Godfrey Bloom, the guy that stood up in the European Parliament and gave hell to the European Parliament about banking and what a fraud it was. We've got Vogue's going to be doing a recorded interview. We've got allegedly Dave, Laura Nina. We've got Louise Creffield from Save Our Rights UK. Oh, Mark Devlin also is coming on. Of course, Robert Arthur Menard. How could I forget that legend? He'll hopefully be coming on live, beaming in from Canada. There's quite a few people so far making appearances, and we've got a full license now that we can play whatever tunes I want to play. And the intention was that people would be out there, out and about, actually using the day as the kind of impetus to maybe get out and do something, whether it's drop leaflets to your neighbours, whether it's get out there wearing the red and white, wearing the t-shirt, waking a few people up, going out and doing something special with your friends as a group, so that it's a kind of celebration. We can get out there, out on the streets. People could then see with the red and white just how many people are actually awake. Now, of course, that requires people to take it up and to get behind it. The first time that we do this, it's like anything, it has to gain momentum. This is a 12-hour broadcast from 9 till 9. So sovereigns need to make their decisions and their choices as to whether they're going to get out there and do something. What we were happy to have is people out and about doing things and then beaming in or filming what they've done, what they've gotten up to, and then sending it over to us or transmitting live. We'll have people on the emails, we'll have people who can receive messages and then feed that into the studio while we're broadcasting live, and we'll hopefully be educating people throughout the day. And of course, the aim of the game is we're trying to raise funds for criminal litigation. We're going to have to pick out a sacrificial lamb from the banking industry and do them for their fraudulent and false advertising with regards to loan facilities and mortgage facilities. The name of the game being that if we force them to change their advertisements and explain that they don't loan money, that in itself could actually end up waking more people up than we could ever wake up, multi-millions, because anyone that bothers going to apply for a loan and looking and reading the advert or even having to have it explained to them that they don't loan money, well then hopefully people are going to start raising an eyebrow or two or three. What we're doing is we're raising the funds so that we can actually fund a formal investigation. Gary Summers is going to be heading it up. We've got Tariq Ghaffur, ex-assistant commissioner to the Metropolitan Police. He and his squad of ex-Scotland Yard investigators will effectively be gathering the evidence. Gary will then be recruiting an ex-FCA lawyer who can actually see whether or not any rules have been broken, and we're going to have a banking expert on board. And with that team, what it will then be is a situation where Gary will then need to ascertain or identify the best way forward. Under the Financial Services and Markets Act 2000, that's the Act of Parliament which created or put in place the regime which led to the creation of the Financial Services Authority, which has since been changed to the Prudential Regulation Authority and the Financial Conduct Authority. Those rules that were put in place under that act require the banks to be transparent with their customers. Now, that means you have to explain how a product works, because part of the actual intention behind the creation of that act was that they wanted customers to become more financially aware. And you only become financially aware when you're educated or you're taught about how these things work. That was part of the duty of financial services providers, was to actually explain how things work so that customers weren't left in the dark. Well, how can you have an advert which advertises a loan when we all know that there's no such thing as a loan? In fact, Professor Richard Werner would describe it as a purchase of a security. In other words, the bank purchases your security. Now, on that basis, if you're buying something, why is the party that you're buying the thing from got to suddenly pay you money? In other words, that's why they call them repayments, because the moment you've handed the instrument, the credit agreement, promissory note, the IOU, the moment you've handed that to the bank, if the bank is buying that from you, well, once they've bought it from you, that's the deal done. What's all this thing about repayments? So what we're trying to do is get the banks to explain that they do not loan money, and that fact alone would wake people up, potentially more people than we could ever wake up. The position we're coming from is that they must explain that they do not loan money and that it is created from thin air by you, the customer. Yes, you need the bank to do that, but it's actually you that creates that all. Let me make something clear. I'm an ex-banker. I've worked in the finance industry for years, and the moment I discovered how it really worked, I've never used credit again. Now, if the government is really serious, and if the banking industry is serious about people not abusing debt, remember, some people commit suicide over what we know is fake loans. So if the government is really serious about it, and if the banks are really serious about it, they should want to educate people, almost to put them off and let them know how it really works, because it does put people off. Why would you want to give the bank an instrument that's worth cash, allow them to sell it and keep the proceeds, which we know happens, but then also, apart from the fact that they're buying this instrument from you, which should be the transaction over and done with, why would you want to then pay them again and put some interest on top of that when they didn't loan you anything? We're talking about the advertisements. They've got to be clear about the advertisements. You've got to do one step at a time. A marathon, you don't just come in at mile 26 and win the marathon. You have to start off with one step. The first step, whether you're climbing a ladder, running a race, whatever, you've got to start with the first step. And that first step is changing the advertisement. And that's what we're aiming to do. If we change the advertisements, the plus side, the upside, which hopefully the banks won't even realize, is that, well, in fact, maybe they will, but we come at it from the point of view of, well, look, we want people to understand how this thing works. And in compliance with the FSMA 2000, this is what should be happening. And from our perspective, in the truth movement, the upside is that the banks will be doing our job for us. They'll be waking people up. When I was a banker, we were taught the whole reason that banks charge interest is because of the risk. What risk? What risk? I've created something from nothing. Where's my risk? I'm not going to lose anything. That's a fallacy. There is no risk. Therefore, there should be no interest charge. Now, we can't take on all the arguments, all the facets. That would be such a complex case. We'd be there for 100 years and it would serve no purpose. We have to attack one thing at a time. Any lawyer would probably tell you this. So we've got to get them on one thing. We start with the advertisements. The advertisements are false. Fraud in the inducement. They are misleading you. It's a bait and switch. They are baiting you into a contract and then switching that contract. They're advertising this loan. There is no such thing as a loan in this game. And that's what we're seeking to alter. So look, we've got to give it a go. If you don't give these things a go, well, then you may as well just accept everything as it is, right? That's what it's all about, people. Join us live. We're going to be broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, and directly from the Red Pill Day website.